happens inside her mind in the exact second she decides you are different from every other man in the room? Not when you buy something, not when you say the line you rehearsed, not when you flex or over-explain your life. I'm talking about the moment her nervous system marks you as compelling, the moment her attention keeps returning to you even when she tries to focus elsewhere. If you want to understand that moment, you must understand the psychology of influence that operates beneath words. Today, you are going to learn 7 high-contrast influence patterns, often called dark psychology tactics. You will learn what each one really does to attention, emotion, and memory, why it works according to the best-known research in influence, behavioral science, and evolutionary psychology, how unethical players misuse it, and how to apply the ethical version that builds desire with respect, consent, and personal power. I am not here to hand you cheap tricks. I am here to sharpen your attention so you stop doing all the things that quietly make you invisible and start doing the few things that make you unforgettable. If you stay with me to the end, you will know how to command attention without chasing, how to create powerful emotional contrast without playing games, and how to make your presence linger in her mind long after the conversation ends. The first pattern is intermittent reward. In behavioral science, variable ratio and variable interval schedules are the most addictive patterns of reinforcement because the brain learns that the next moment might deliver a reward. That might is crucial. It keeps dopamine prediction error high, attention engaged, and pursuit alive. Unethical seducers weaponize this by being hot and cold on purpose, love-bombing one day and withdrawing the next to destabilize. That is manipulation, and it breeds anxiety, not attraction. The ethical application is different. You become a steady, self-led man whose core is predictable. Values, boundaries, and respect never fluctuate, while your expressions of attention and experience are alive, playful, and slightly less predictable. You do not vanish or punish with silence. You simply avoid becoming a vending machine of validation. You text when you have something meaningful or fun to share, not every time a fear flares up. You show affection generously in person, but you also maintain your training, your work, your friends, and your purpose. That natural variability, intentional life first, romance woven inside it, keeps anticipation alive without destabilizing her. The practical cue is this: let your life set the rhythm. When you lead an interesting life, your attention is a premium resource by definition. When you perform constant reassurance to manage your own insecurity, you become background noise. Mastery here is not coldness. It is warmth delivered from a centered schedule, not from need. That difference is felt, not argued. The second pattern is preselection and social proof. Across dozens of studies on mate choice copying and social validation, humans infer value from what valuable people value. If other high-quality women are clearly comfortable around you, if your peers respect you, if your life includes meaningful group belonging, her brain receives a shortcut signal. This man is vetted, safe, and desirable. Unethical players fake this with staged photos, hired company, or false narratives. That backfires because incongruence leaks through your eyes, voice tempo, and micro-expressions. The ethical application is simple and demanding. You build a life that places you in authentic, mixed-company environments where your character is observed over time. Train where community exists, not just alone. Volunteer. Join clubs where challenge and camaraderie are real. Contribute to visible projects. Become known for a craft. When you are a man who belongs to something bigger than himself, your presence carries social resonance. In conversation, you never brag, you reference. You don't list achievements, you narrate current commitments. You don't say people admire you. You demonstrate regard by how you interact, remembering names, introducing others, making space, setting standards. Social proof then emerges as a byproduct of who you are in public, not as a prop you carry. That is unforgeable. The third pattern is frame control and reframing. In influence research and in negotiation literature, the side that sets the frame sets the meaning. The frame is the lens through which facts are perceived. Anxious men subconsciously accept a low-value frame, chasing, auditioning, calculating approval. That frame leaks from posture, speech rate, and question quality. Unethical players try to dominate frame through dismissal or belittling, which is just insecurity packaged as arrogance. The ethical version is sovereign framing. You decide the channel of interaction and you hold it calmly. Your frame is, I enjoy exploring people's minds, and I invest in those who invest back. You don't beg for interest, you test for it. You don't over-explain, you invite. You don't tolerate disrespect, you redirect or exit. To implement this, make your default conversational frame about shared experiences and standards. You ask questions that assume depth. What fascinated you about that choice? What challenge did you learn to enjoy? What value would you protect even if no one clapped? You steer away from passive consumption talk and into creation talk. You set micro boundaries. When the conversation fragments into distractions, you pause, smile, and bring it back to the thread you value. You complement with calibration, not desperation, not withholding. Specific observations that show you are present and discerning. Frame is not a speech. It is the consistent gravity of a man who knows what matters to him. The fourth pattern is mirroring, pacing, and leading. Social neuroscience shows that attunement, subtle matching of rhythm, tone, and body language, reduces social threat and increases rapport. Unethical players spam these techniques mechanically to trick familiarity. The ethical use is empathy first, technique second. You do not mimic, you attune. If her pace is quick and bright, you meet it with clarity, then slow the tempo gradually to create intimacy. If her voice is soft and reflective, you match the softness without losing masculine resonance in your chest, then introduce a playful spike to test how she handles contrast. You notice the cadence of her breathing, and you avoid stepping on her sentences. You let silence do some of the work. When you laugh, you do so from the body, not just the throat. When you shift topics, you bridge with a thread she cares about instead of hard cutting to your agenda. Pacing builds the bridge, leading invites across it. That is what turns a pleasant interaction into a memorable one. She felt seen, and then she was invited into a slightly deeper, slightly braver channel, because you led. The fifth pattern is scarcity and self-imposed constraints. Cialdini's principle of scarcity is clear. Perceived rarity enhances value. Unethical seducers fake scarcity with made-up deadlines or strategic unavailability meant to induce anxiety. Ethical scarcity arises from structure and standards. Your time is limited because your mission is real. Your availability is focused because your calendar is intentional. You do not cancel your commitments to chase a whim. You propose a concrete window and keep it. You end interactions on a high note because you manage your energy. You reply later because you were training, not because you were playing a mind game. The difference again is felt. When scarcity is real, your presence is grounded when it appears. When scarcity is faked, your presence is jittery and apologetic. To make this practical, stack your week with growth anchors: physical training, deep work, skill acquisition, and brotherhood. Then give romance a high-quality slice rather than scattered crumbs. This naturally creates the contrast that activates attention. With you, time feels curated, not chaotic. The sixth pattern is anchoring and emotional conditioning. Anchoring, priming, and state-dependent memory show that feelings get linked to cues, smells, songs, locations, phrases, even micro-rituals. Unethical players attach intense highs to themselves and then withdraw to create dependency. Ethical mastery uses anchoring to deepen connection without exploiting it. Choose a few consistent sensory cues that will be associated with your presence: a clean, subtle scent, a characteristic but natural vocal cadence, a phrase that encapsulates your personal philosophy. When you are with her, create moments where body and mind settle: slow breathing, unhurried eye contact, a shared laugh that genuinely lands. Those experiences become emotional anchors linked to you. Later, when she hears the song you shared or catches that scent, her body recalls the ease. This is not sorcery. It is deliberate craftsmanship. Do not overuse it. Let cues be discovered, not announced. The ethical test is simple. Would the moment still be valuable if nothing came after it? If yes, your anchor is clean. The seventh pattern is commitment and consistency. Decades of research show that small voluntary commitments make future alignment more likely. Unethical players force micro-commitments through guilt or corner her into yes with social pressure. Ethical players invite micro-commitments that honor freedom. You make small, concrete invitations, exchange a piece of music and share what it evokes, try a specific coffee spot because you appreciate how they roast, Join a short challenge you already do. A sunrise run once. A bookstore browse with a clear time box. You do not demand, you propose. You do not trap, you give clear outs. Paradoxically, that freedom increases the likelihood of a sincere yes, and that yes builds a real thread. Consistency then becomes shared momentum, not compliance. When she invests, you reciprocate proportionally. When she does not, you do not complain. You reallocate your attention to where it is earned. That emotional cleanliness is power. Now let's confront the three patterns that are labeled dark for a reason. Negging, gaslighting, and triangulation. They persist because they can produce short-term reactions, but they corrode trust and your character. Negging is an insult disguised as a compliment. It attempts to lower self-esteem to raise your perceived rank. It signals insecurity, and it trains her nervous system to brace around you. Replace it with calibrated challenge. You can tease lightly about choices, not about worth. You can disagree with warmth. You can challenge bravely by asking her to show you the standard she claims to admire. Gaslighting is reality distortion, denying obvious facts to destabilize someone's confidence. Never do it. Instead, own mistakes fast and ask for clarification when your perceptions diverge. Triangulation attempts to provoke jealousy by constantly invoking third parties. It might spike adrenaline, but it also teaches her that you cannot create safety or intimacy. Replace it with earned preselection. Live a life where interesting women naturally respect you, then pick one woman at a time and be present. The strongest attraction is desire paired with trust. The moment she cannot trust you, desire turns into vigilance, and vigilance kills romance. You now have the map. Next, you integrate it into the way you actually move through your days. Because technique without identity becomes awkward, and identity without technique leaves power on the table. Start with your nervous system. Influence amplifies the state you are already in. If you are keyed up, grasping, or exhausted, the patterns above will manifest as pressure. If your baseline is calm, playful, and purposeful, they manifest as magnetism. Set 3 daily anchors: breath training for nervous system regulation, physical training for embodied confidence, and focus blocks for cognitive integrity. Before you approach, slow your exhale. Feel the ground under your feet. Let your shoulders drop. Widen your field of vision. Speak from your chest, not your throat. You are not trying to get a result out there. You are letting your presence be felt here. When your state is clean, the micro skills become natural. Your eye contact holds a beat longer without staring. Your smile initiates from the eyes. Your voice lands with warmth and direction. People respond to that before they process any tactic. Language matters. High-status men use precise, concrete language with short, complete sentences. They remove fillers and apologies. They ask questions that open inner worlds, not checklist facts. They disclose selectively, one vivid truth instead of a flood of autobiography. They answer tests with humor and clarity rather than defensiveness. They turn compliments into frames, not, "You're so pretty," but, "I like how deliberate you are with your style." It says you choose things, you don't collect them. They redirect negative spirals with grace. Let's park that. I'm more interested in what actually energizes you. They make requests cleanly. "I'm free Thursday at 6. Join me for a coffee, 30 minutes. If we enjoy it, we'll stretch it." No pleading, no hedging, no over-explaining the reason for everything. This is not cold, it is caring about the quality of attention. Calibration is non-negotiable. A master seducer is not a bulldozer, he is a reader of signals. Attention is the first currency. If her eyes dart away, if her feet orient to exit, if answers shorten, you ease pressure or exit with dignity. Interest is the second currency. If she invests with questions, if laughter arrives faster, if her body orients to you, you can deepen. Consent is the threshold at every step, verbal and nonverbal. You do not push past doubt. You invite clarity. You slow down when energy spikes, not speed up. You stop when you sense uncertainty, not rationalize it. The highest power is the power to walk away clean, because you would rather protect your integrity than secure a number. Now fold each pattern into your actual approach, conversation, and follow-up. You approach from state, not from hunger. You place your attention on something specific you genuinely appreciate about the moment or the setting. That gives your opener weight. You don't pretend to be casual. You are direct and light. You acknowledge the reason you engaged, then you move into curiosity. You use pacing early, match rhythm, find a shared tempo, then lead into a calmer cadence. You establish frame not by saying you have standards, but by demonstrating them. You keep your spine tall, you place your bag carefully, you don't fidget, you speak clearly, you let silences breathe. You embed ethical scarcity by checking the time you truly have and expressing it up front. I've got 5 minutes before I head out. I wanted to meet you. That increases focus. You create anchoring by enjoying one sensory detail together. The aroma of the coffee, the light in the room, a lyric in the background. You cede a micro-commitment only if there is real reciprocity. You suggest a short, specific next step tied to something she showed interest in. Then you exit clean, on a high note without dragging out. In messages, you avoid the common mistakes that kill attraction, flooding with attention, interrogations, and seeking reassurance. You send concise, vivid messages that recreate the energy of your interaction. You do not perform digital availability. You respond when you have attention to give. You mix playful spikes with grounded check-ins. You respect your calendar and hers. You manage pace. If she replies instantly with depth, you stay in the pocket a little. If she takes a day and writes 2 lines, you don't chase with a novel. Consistency looks like congruent behavior, not constant contact. Intermittent reward here is simply a function of an interesting life. Sometimes you are in the mountains, sometimes you are at your desk, sometimes you are with friends. Your attention returns, not because you are obligated, but because you choose it. At dates, you structure for momentum. Choose environments that help you lead, places with some sensory character, manageable noise, and opportunities for movement. Sit at a right angle rather than directly across when intimacy is new. It reduces subconscious confrontation and increases collaboration. Use the environment as a co-conspirator. Explore a shelf, taste something new. Listen briefly to a street musician. Walk a short distance between spots. Movement resets nerves. During conversation, you alternate between breadth and depth. One layer of playful banter, one layer of meaning, one layer of embodied presence. You calibrate touch ethically and attentively, always reading reciprocity, always willing to slow down, always willing to stop. Your attention remains attuned, your presence remains unhurried. Scarcity is baked in because you end on time and leave her a little hungrier than when you arrived. Anchoring is baked in because the night had a distinct flavor. Commitment is baked in because the next step is clear and light, not heavy and vague. Now look at the inner game that makes all of this automatic. Attraction amplifies your relationship with discomfort. Men who avoid discomfort turn to manipulation when the moment of truth arrives. The risk of being rejected, the risk of being truly seen, the risk of leading. Men who train discomfort become transparent and powerful. That training happens every day. You must condition courage the way you condition muscle. Speak when you feel the impulse. Hold silence when you feel the urge to fill it. Take a stand when your values are tested. Build your capacity for yes and your capacity for no. Practice clean exits. Protect your sleep so your prefrontal cortex has the bandwidth to regulate your impulses. Reduce cheap dopamine so your system can perceive subtle reward. When you do this, your presence carries weight. And then, when you use the 7 patterns above, they feel like natural expressions of your center instead of tactics pasted on top of anxiety. Let me anchor a few advanced details because this is where magnetism separates from technique. When you compliment, align it with identity rather than surface. Notice intentionality, taste, courage, wit, discipline, curiosity. Not just looks. When you tease, aim at choices, never at worth. When you challenge, do it by raising the standard you hold yourself to and inviting her into that energy, never by diminishing hers. When you flirt, use contrast. Pair a grounded voice with playful words, or playful words with a calm pause. When you reveal something that costs you a little. Not trauma dumping, not trivia. A value you struggle to keep, a line you refuse to cross, a joy you protect. That precision creates depth fast without heaviness. When you set boundaries, do it without heat. You're not punishing, you're curating. When you exit, exit decisively. Stand, smile, make eye contact, speak the next step, and go. Your edges teach the world how to treat you. Attraction is the echo of those edges. Some men ask, "Can't I just be myself?" Yes, but make sure the self you bring has been forged. Authenticity without refinement is laziness. Refinement without authenticity is performance. You want both. Read widely so your mind has more frames. Study influence so you recognize when you are being pulled into someone else's frame and can choose. Train your body so your nervous system broadcasts calm. Build your craft so your life has gravity. Serve others so your presence is not just about taking. Laugh often so you don't calcify. And then approach women as a man who is already full. Dark tactics, when used by empty men, become predation. The same patterns used by full men become poetry. Intermittent reward becomes aliveness. Social proof becomes community. Frame becomes leadership. Pacing, leading becomes attunement. Scarcity becomes structure. Anchoring becomes memory. Commitment becomes momentum. If you want a simple mental checklist before you engage, use this. State, frame, pace, lead, calibrate, anchor, choose. State, settle your breath, feel your feet, soften your eyes. Frame, decide the channel. Curiosity, play, and standards. Pace, meet her where she is. Lead, steer into a slightly braver rhythm. Calibrate, read the signals and respect them. Anchor, share one sensory moment worth remembering. Choose, if reciprocity is absent, exit clean. If reciprocity is present, propose the next small step. That loop is enough. Run it consistently, and your presence will train her nervous system to associate you with ease and spark. That is attraction at the level that counts. Before we finish, I want you to install one core belief that protects you from the ugliest side of dark psychology. There is no win in winning someone through confusion. Real power is the ability to be wanted by someone fully resourced, fully awake, and fully free to say no. If you need to disorient to be chosen, you lose yourself even if you get a yes. The men who sustain desire years into a relationship are the ones who keep their center, keep their standards, and keep their play. They do not outsource their self-esteem to the next text. They do not negotiate their boundaries to buy attention. They do not confuse reactivity with passion. They lead lives that produce stories worth telling, and they make offers that are easy to accept and easy to refuse. That freedom is addictive. That freedom is what makes a woman lean in and think about you later when she did not plan to. You came here for 7 dark psychology tactics. You are leaving with something better. The ethical versions that generate attraction with clean hands. Intermittent reward becomes steady core with lively delivery. Social proof becomes authentic belonging and visible contribution. Frame becomes sovereign leadership without arrogance. Mirroring and pacing leading become deep attunement that earns permission to lead. Scarcity becomes disciplined structure and a full life. Anchoring becomes intentional memory making rather than dependency. Commitment and consistency become voluntary momentum rather than pressure. Put them together, and you become the kind of man who changes the quality of space he enters. That is felt by women immediately. That is remembered by women unconsciously. And that is how you step into the rare air where attraction is not a chase, it is a consequence.